Hello. All right. All right. Oh, let me get my earphones back on. I have these on mainly so I can keep it monitoring on the audio quality. And yeah. And I can make sure everything sounds okay. Occasionally my computer the audio will mess up. And if you hear it do that, just drop me a comment on the side there and let me know. And I should be able to hear it with my headphones. But anyway, hello, I'm Van Plexico. And this is History 286. This was supposed to be in the classroom in Belleville, but we are doing it online this summer. And this is my third of three that I'm going to be going over today. I did 101 at 9 o'clock and 181 at 10 o'clock just now. And dang it, look at that. I had Mondays 9 to 10 on the syllabus for all of them. It's supposed to be 11 to 12. I don't know how. Hopefully everybody, I'm going to make a note right quick to myself to re-upload the 181 and 286 syllabi to Blackboard with the corrected time on there. So if you're watching this later and you're trying to figure out why we weren't on at 9 o'clock, it's because it wasn't supposed to say 9 o'clock. I can't do all three at the same time. It's supposed to say 9 to 10 for one, 10 to 11 for another, and this one is 11 to 12. I think I put that on the Blackboard page, though, so hopefully people are in the right place and doing the right thing and everything. Okay, well, we'll see. Anyway. All right, so I'm going to go over the syllabus a little bit here. It's like something just bit me. And then we'll get into what we're going to be doing. But we have 8 weeks to cover the history of religion. And I've broken it down by which chapters, which religions we'll be doing each week. We'll have, well, I'll show you on the syllabus. Let me go ahead and put that up here. Okay, let's see. Tucker says, I saw the email about it being at 11. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully that makes sense to people because I basically just copied and pasted that little part of the syllabus to all 3 classes. And I didn't realize that I had the time in there. So, well, in any case, it'll be on Blackboard. It'll be on YouTube, you know, going forward for the rest of the semester. So if people tuned in and it wasn't there, you know, they can watch it now. They can watch it later. So it's not a huge disaster because it will be recorded. Okay, so let me go ahead and bring that up over here. I had a devil of a time getting this to work at the 9 o'clock class, but it's worked fine ever since. I don't know what I'm doing differently. Oh, okay. Wait, Tucker has a question here. Anyone else trying to rent the text message have to return it by July? Yeah, but because I think that's set for how the classes would run that started a couple of weeks ago. And our classes are starting later. For whatever reason, they decided to have these my 3 classes start later and end later. These 3 classes that I'm doing here end like the week before opening week of fall. So I would just simply contact the bookstore and point out that your class started later and ends later, and they should, I would think, be able to adjust that. Okay, I can't imagine that they wouldn't. It's probably another thing like my syllabus where they just pasted in something for one group and it got carried over to a different group. So, okay. So let me run through the syllabus here, and hopefully everything else in it is accurate. We are going through August 7, I guess, yes, of 2020. See there again. I have Mondays 9 to 10 a.m. It shouldn't. I don't know how that. I apologize. I don't usually make this many. I don't usually make this many typos, but I'll get that re-uploaded. If you want to contact me, cool. I see Tucker's comment. That's cool. Contact him. And probably if just one or two of you does, they'll figure it out and correct it for everybody. I would hope that not everybody has to contact them. Okay, so I'm in my office, and by office, I mean down here in the basement in my podcasting studio normally. I'll be in here from 1 to 4 on Monday afternoons, so I'll be available. Or if you need to make an appointment with me at a different time, just let me know. I'm available through Zoom. We can have a video conference just like we're talking to each other, or we can do it by audio, whatever. Or you can just email me, or you can ask me stuff, like Tucker and Biochemist just did during the broadcast, and we'll get things handled. So, but my email is that is my accurate email, van.platescoatsuite.edu. And let's see, the way this course breaks down is not chronologically like most history classes where we say this happened and then this happened and this happened. There was a war and there was this guy and then this, This class breaks down by topic. So we'll be looking at this kind of religion. We'll be looking at religion from this area of the world, We'll be looking at this kind of religion. So we break it down structurally rather than chronologically. In some ways geographically, though not entirely. And again, their syllabus kind of describes what we're going to be looking at and how. I'm not going to read all that to you. I had to completely redo my syllabi from how I normally do in classroom classes. I just broke it all down to describe, here's what we're going to be doing, here's what you need to do, and when you're going to have to do it. Okay. So, and see, well, I already changed that. Announcements. I post things in announcements, including the link to this video when we're done. YouTube sometimes takes as much as 2 days to make my live videos show up available under the videos tab on YouTube. So what I'll be doing as soon as we're done here at 12 o'clock is I will take the URL from here and I'll put it on Blackboard in an announcement and say, here is today's video link. So if you're not able to join us live and you want to find the recording and YouTube doesn't want to show you the recording, go to Blackboard and I'll have the link, the direct link there. Let's see. Raja said, hello, Raja. Is the book required for the class? It's more required for an online class because in the classroom, we're in there talking and having much more flow of information for a lot longer time. It's always required, of course. But I think what I'm saying is it's probably more useful even here than it would be in that scenario, right? I'm never going to say it's not useful at all. You always need that written material to give you the depth that I'm not able to go into in PowerPoints or in talking for an hour. But in an online class, I mean, you definitely need all that background and depth. That being said, my exams are on what I go over in the PowerPoints. I'll be talking about them here, and you have direct access to them under your course content. So when you study for an exam, your primary thing you should focus on is the PowerPoints and I'll try to hit the highlights, as we go along here on video every week. The purpose of the book is to flesh things out and fill in things that I don't have time to talk about. Let's see. Tucker says, I would assume due to the readings we have for each. I'm not sure what you're referring to. There's a lag, plus I didn't get to yours until just now. Yeah, okay. All right, well, in any case, if you want to follow up, you can. Otherwise, I'm going to assume I addressed those questions. Like I said, I'll post things in announcements. I also put things into course contents, like when a test goes up, it'll go up under course content, but I'll probably also post an announcement saying the test has begun. You have a week to go do it, that kind of thing. We have 4 regular exams. I'll get to that in a minute. We have 2 short quizzes that are based on videos, but I won't post the links to the quizzes and to the videos for them until we kind of get to them, because I don't want you working on a quiz about Christianity when we're talking about native Africa. You know, it's kind of weird. So I kind of do things in order, including the quizzes. There's 1 paper. We'll get to that in just a minute. Here's how the points break down. There's the 4 tests, 100, 200, 100, and 300. The writing assignment is 200, and then the 2 quizzes together, they're 50 points each, equals 1,000. You just lop off that last digit, and you got your grade out of 100. And each exam only covers the stuff right up before it. So like exam 4, the final exam, only covers part 4. Okay. So the way I've kind of broken it down is by weeks, so that this week we will be doing the introduction section on PowerPoint and Native Americans religion on PowerPoint. And those are the chapters of your textbook that match up pretty well with those 2 topics. But that's not all of what will be on test 1. Next week of June 22nd, we'll go over chapter 3 and part 3, Native American religions. Once we finish that, we're at the end of the first test. Then we will go on and start Hinduism for the second test. We have to cram everything into just 8 weeks, so we have to kind of keep moving. But what that means is at the beginning of June 29th week, that first exam will post, and I'll make sure everybody knows about it. And then you'll have the week of June 29th to go in and take the test on what we covered in part 1, part 2, and part 3. Okay, and I made a note to show where the exams end. So exam 2 begins with Hinduism and includes Jainism, Buddhism, and Sikhism. Exam 2 ends here, and that exam will go up the week of July 13th. Hopefully that makes sense. I may even put them up a little early, but you have that entire time to what I learned last semester doing really online for the first time. What I learned last semester was it's good to give you like a week or so to take an exam, because you guys have busy schedules. You don't always have good access to computers. You don't always have good access to the internet. So I want to make sure you have plenty of time to find a day and a time that you can be by yourself with a computer and the internet to take the exams and do the best you can with them. Once you start taking them, you got to finish them then. Okay, you can't come back and come back over the week. But make sure you have the time ready and you're ready to start, and then start that test, and that'll be that. Okay, so Tucker explains. I looked on the schedule. It says we have readings for each chapter. I think I probably don't understand fully what that meant. I think it was more you need to read each chapter. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So in other words, each week we're going to go over 1 or 2 or maybe 3 PowerPoints, and there's a chapter of the textbook that goes with each one. And you asked a good question that I didn't think of, which is how long do we have to do these exams? The first one and the second one are only like 25 multiple choice questions. In class, I usually allow about 35 minutes. It usually takes people about 20. Maybe 1 or 2 people take the whole 35 minutes. So I'm probably allowing you like 45 just to be in a classroom, which is I think about an hour and 15 minutes. In fact, for the final, I probably give you an hour and 50 minutes because that's what you would have in a classroom class taking the same test. Okay. See if there's anything else. I have to look at my other monitor over here to see. Okay, the writing assignment. Okay, I'm doing it the same way I do the in-class one, and hopefully this will work out okay. I realize that the site visit might be problematic right now, but that's just one option out of a bunch of options. Here's the gist of the writing assignment. You are figuring out some religion that you want to know more about and that you don't know as much about as you might like right now. And then you are finding some major source of information about it to be your main source. So that could be, it could be a book. It could be an article in a magazine or something. It could be a film. You could interview somebody, or you could actually go to a religious site and maybe even talk to people there. Now, again, like I said, that one is a little more problematic right now. I understand that, but usually only 2 or 3 people do that anyway out of a class of 30. So I think you'll be okay. So find you a book, an article, a film, or somebody to talk to and learn more about the subject. They're available in different ways, obviously. I list, this is interesting. These are some books that are basically people against religion. I've had students that agreed with that, but I've also had students that wanted to go in and argue with those people, and that's fine. If you want to go in and refute some of the things those people are saying, that's fine. Scientology is always a popular topic, and HBO did a thing called Going Clear, a documentary on it. There's a book that goes along with it if you're interested in that. So that's always interesting. There are some films you are not to use. I don't want to spend a lot of time here of our precious 45 minutes remaining, but I really do not want you to do anything based on those Kevin Sorbo God's Not Dead movies, not because of the argument they make. There's nothing wrong with making a pro-Judeo-Christian God argument. That's fine. It's that the logic and the way that they make their argument in those movies is completely illogical and fallacious and a waste of your time. And the first time, the first semester after those movies came out, I didn't know what they were. The first one came out, I didn't know what it was. And I had a bunch of students watch the first one and write papers. And if you enjoy those movies, that's great. But it's like if you were in a science class and you tried to do your big science paper on the earth being flat based on a YouTube video from a flat earther. You would get a 0, right? It's the same thing here. If you want to argue that for the existence of a God or gods, that's fine. Find something that makes a decent argument about faith and the power of faith in human lives and all that, or whatever. But those movies try to use pseudo-scientific arguments to prove, like the name of it alone, they don't, the argument of the movies is that the Judeo-Christian God is not dead, as if there are 2 choices in life, that there is the Judeo-Christian God and he's alive, or that there's the Judeo-Christian God and he used to be alive and now he's dead, which means that atheists don't exist because they say he never existed, not that he's dead, right? They're arguing that he existed and is now dead. So atheists don't exist in that world. Jews don't exist in that world. Hindus don't exist. The Chinese entirely, the Japanese, Africans, all these other religions don't exist. There's only a binary option of either this one. It's like if you did a movie called Vishnu's Not Dead, and the only options that you had were Vishnu exists and is alive, or Vishnu existed but now he's dead. You see, I mean, that alone invalidates the entire concept. So you can watch them. I can't come to your house and tackle the remote out of your hand, but don't write a paper about them. Okay, thank you. Now, it says 10 to 12 page, but understand it has to be double spaced, so that's right. And you have your title page, your sources consulted page, and I think I allow you like an illustration page too. So you've already shrunk the minimum down to like 7 double spaced pages, which I don't think is horrible for a college class, okay? And again, you can go through, and if you have any questions about the instructions, I give you some questions to think about, some ways to kind of go about it. You might also want to just consult with me, like, I have this idea, does this sound okay? And I would be like, yeah, that sounds great, and here's some suggestions for it, or, oh, I really wouldn't suggest that. I wouldn't recommend that. I would, so you might want to run it by me if you want to. You don't have to, but if you have any question, run it by me. Here's how the papers are graded. If you want extra credit, just follow those instructions to your regular paper. It's not a second paper. It's just the way that you do your one paper to get a few extra points. You can get like 220 out of 200 on it. You don't write 2 papers. If you send me a second paper, I'm throwing it away. Okay, I'm not grading it. And that's just SWIC stuff. All right, so I think that's everything. If you have any questions, again, contact me, let me know. Now, in our remaining 41-ish minutes, I would like to go over some of part 1 and part 2. So the introduction is where I just kind of talk about, hold on, There. Okay. I have to switch to my second drink, keep my voice going. Okay, so this just shows relatively how big the different religions are. Obviously, Christianity and Islam are the two biggest. Christianity is the largest. Islam is the fastest growing. And then you have Hinduism. Agnosticism is not even a religion. We'll get to that later. Chinese folk, Buddhism is big, et cetera, et cetera. Atheism is not a religion either. Well, we'll talk about that. Shinto, that's how many Japanese there are in Japan, and others that we'll talk about. Okay. It's kind of the same chart, percentage of world population. So a third of the world is Christian, a fifth is Muslim, and then everybody else breaks down like that. So I asked the question, why? Again, I'm going to just zip right along here. If you want to take written notes, just kind of go back and rewatch it again, and you can pause and everything. We just don't have the time to go as slowly as I would in a 3-hour in-class meeting. I'm sure you understand, but you can't pause me there, whereas here you can pause me. So, okay, so why study religions? You get a better understanding of things like history, art, people. And plus, the world today is much more blended, and we fear the things we don't understand. So it helps to understand these things so that we're not afraid of them and hostile to them and all that. It would make a more peaceful, better world. Okay, yeah. I like this picture because it shows how much the world has changed and how progressive we are now. Excuse me. That today, all these different religions can get together and hang out peacefully without trying to murder each other. We're not that far long ago in the past. They'd have all been screaming that each other was a heretic or a godless, whatever, this, that, or the other, and trying to murder each other. So yay, humans, we've made some progress. We can let each other be different religions without trying to kill each other. Somewhat, although again, that varies from place to place and person to person. And here's how it breaks down. Christianity is kind of in that mustard color. Islam is in green, and then other ones are in smaller. So again, I'm going to zip along here, but this is usually just a discussion we have in the very first day. What is religion? It comes from the term religio. Everything comes from Latin. I like that the point I'm making here is that the word religion is about how we feel, right? Religion isn't about the god or gods. It's about how we humans react, how we feel about them. So it's always about us, interestingly. It can be a set of beliefs having to do with a god or gods. We understand that. It also, though, there's two, I always point this out, right? There's two big questions that religions can try to explain and answer. They don't always. Some religions only do one. Some religions only do the other. Some religions don't really do either. But there's two areas that many religions try to explain the answers to. One is, where did we come from? Where did the world come from? Where did the universe come from? Where did people come from? And it was only a couple hundred years ago or more that we thought that the earth and the universe were the same thing, right? We didn't realize the earth was a tiny little grain of sand in a vast, vast universe. So now we understand there's a world and a universe, and we have to figure out where they all came from. And some religions also try to say, here's how you should live. So some religions talk about the origins of things, but don't really tell you how to live your life. Some religions say, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, whatever, but they don't really tell you where the universe came from or where people came from. Some are what I call the all-inclusive religions that try to address every question. The big monotheistic religions especially try to answer every question. So Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Zoroastrianism, these are religions that try to answer every question, right? You have the book of Genesis for where do we all come from. You have the book of Exodus that has the 10 commandments for how should I behave while I'm here, you know. Some religions do that, some don't. Religion can be a person's concern that may be more important than anything else, but that varies from person to person. It could be belief in an unseen order. I like that phrase. Religion is definitely unseen, at least in terms of the gods and the religious, effects. We don't see it. We have to just believe it. So that brings us to the most important word I use in the entire course. When there's something that you just have to believe, even though there's no proof and you can't see it, that's faith. And so this entire course is based around the idea of faith, that you believe something without proof, without scientific evidence. You simply believe it. Now, in a scientific class, we would then probably say, well, that's dumb to do that, right? But this is history of religion, where we're going to say that that's how the world works. We're looking at history. We're not passing judgment. We're simply saying, here's what happened. And what happened is that humans have always thought that way, and they probably always will. Star Trek's universe notwithstanding, where apparently everybody's an atheist and a happy socialist of some kind, because they've got machines that create everything. Anyway, so belief in an unseen order. If there's an order to the universe, we just can't really see it. Our good lies in adjusting ourselves to it. All that means is, if you want to get along, go along, right? If you want to prosper in the universe, go along with this unseen order. Don't fight against it. Don't fight against God. Don't be on the side of chaos and evil. Go with God. Go with the gods. Go with whichever gods you have. Religion can provide we're talking about what things that religions do. Religions can provide explanations, right? As I was saying, religion's there to explain. Religion was there for thousands and thousands of years for humans that didn't understand why things happen. So, like, if two Vikings hear and lightning bolt and boom, right? The Vikings are like, oh, Sigmar, what was that? I'm afraid. And Sigmar says, well, Vlad, that was simply Thor knocking Loki over the head with his hammer again. And Loki and the other one says, oh, okay, well, then I understand that. I have an explanation now, see. Humans need to understand things, or we are afraid. We are afraid of things we don't understand because they could be threats, right? It's a natural reaction. And so if we are given an explanation, whether it's scientifically accurate or not, that's what we need, is just an explanation, and that gives us comfort. Puzzling natural phenomena like thunder and lightning, puzzling experiences like weird dreams and prescience and deja vu and deja vu and deja vu, right? These, we don't know what those things are. They're psychological. And so religion says, oh, that's the gods trying to contact you, you know. For the origins of things, I already mentioned that. Where did things come from? And for why there is evil and suffering. This is a question that has tormented humans forever, right? If I'm a good person and I worship my religion and I obey my God or gods and I do all the things I'm supposed to do in my religion, why did my child die? Why am I poor? Why do these bad things? It's that eternal question, why do bad things happen to good people? And meanwhile, that horrible, terrible billionaire over there gets all this good stuff happen to him. It's not fair. And what religion tells us is life is not fair. The gods work in mysterious ways, and you just have to fit yourself to that unseen order, you see. And religion provides comfort. Explanations provide comfort, and that's a big part of it. Mortality makes it less unbearable. The idea there is mortal means we're all going to die. We're all mortal beings. We're not immortal. We're all going to die eventually. We try to delay it as long as possible, right? And that's fine. But we know we're going to die. But religion can tell you, oh, when you die, you go to this wonderful place where everything is better and you live for it forever. Or you go to the happy hunting grounds, or you're reincarnated in a new life, or whatever. But it makes it less, you know, the ones that have the worst in some ways here are atheists, because they figure your time runs out and you're done. It's finished. Whereas religion says there's something else. We don't know what. We have no way to find out what. It's a question that will never be answered. But religion says have faith. There's our key word. So religion makes knowing you're going to die less unbearable, because you figure, like in my case, I would be told I will come back in the middle of the Auburn-Alabama game where Auburn is perpetually scoring a touchdown to go up 101-0 and going for 2. See, while I'm enjoying Dr. Pepper that doesn't make me fat. There you go. See, it's simple. Allays anxiety. that means it makes your worry less, and there's studies about like people in the hospital that are all worried about their physical condition, but if they have religious faith, it gives them more confidence and makes them more comfortable, and less in pain or less worry. Do with that what you will, but it's one. And then religion provides a social order. It holds societies together and perpetuates a particular order. So in other words, it could be like the caste system, the Hindu system in India. It could be like Christianity during the Middle Ages in Europe when it dominated all aspects of life. It kind of holds society. It's the glue that holds societies together often. It supports morality, right? Because the religion is saying do the right thing, do the good thing, while the lawless are out running around being brigands and whatever back then. And then I believe this is the last one. Religion can be seen as a cognitive illusion. Cognitive illusion means an illusion of the mind and of thinking. And that simply means that people are superstitious. So one way of looking at religion, again, we're going to be looking at religion in all different ways, right? We're looking at it in all different directions. And one of the ways is the idea that people are naturally superstitious. We tend to gravitate toward things that, we just believe these strange things, even if they aren't always true. And religious concepts are irrefutable. To refute something means to prove it's false. Science is refutable. You can prove, like if I said the moon orbits Jupiter, you could prove that's false, right? But religious concepts can't be proven wrong. If I say that the universe was created by a three-headed green dragon, show me that I'm wrong. I'll wait. See, you can't. So religious concepts are irrefutable. Refutation, meaning proving something wrong. Proving something wrong is more difficult than just going along with it, right? Which is easier? Let's say you're a teenager in rural Mississippi, and everybody in your entire town, your whole county, are strong Baptists. Which is easier for you, young person in rural Mississippi, to go out and try to prove the non-existence of God, or to get up and go to church with your family? You see? And which is going to be more healthy for you, right? So refutation is always more difficult than just going with the flow. All right. So that's kind of my introduction of what religions are and why and what they can do and why and how. Now I'm going to talk about some commonalities among religions that are considered basic. Now, when textbooks call these religions basic religions, it's trying to be kind of politically correct. Let me be politically incorrect for a second. You might call these primitive religions, but that doesn't sound good, right? It makes the people sound lesser somehow. And just because, one society of people haven't developed writing doesn't mean they're not really smart or really good at something else, like agriculture or some other, building temples or whatever. So we try not to put value judgments on people. And so just use the word basic. I guess another word would be tribal. These are often tribal people that often wander about. And so their religion needs to be something that is easily portable. If your religion relies on giant marble statues and a temple, then a tribal people in sub-Saharan Africa are probably not going to be good at that religion because they don't have the giant statues and all of that. So, these are religions that really fit the people who embrace them. Okay, so tribal people, Bedouin people, that kind of thing. So one of the hallmarks of basic religion is that the ideas are not preserved in written form. They are verbal, or they're in songs or something like that. They are prehistoric or remote, meaning that they weren't written down. All prehistoric means is not like dinosaurs. Prehistoric means before people started writing things down as history. So there are tribes in the Amazon jungle today that are prehistoric because they are remote, because they don't have literacy, because they're still living hunter-gatherer and not like, in a civilized, what we would think of as a civilized way. Basic religions tend to have many different beliefs, even within the same people. Like you might have one tribe of Native Americans, and some of them believe one thing and some believe another, because there's no organized, there's no book, there's no temple, no church, right? So they kind of believe different things within the same community. They have an animistic view of nature, and that's a really important word we're going to be looking at a lot in this course, animistic. Now, it can involve animals, but that's not really where it's trying to go. When something is animistic, what it really means is, think about the word animated, like an animated cartoon, right? Here's my example I always use. Think about Bugs Bunny. Everybody knows Bugs Bunny, right? It's like he's your cousin. You know what he sounds like. You know what his personality's like. You know what he looks like. You know he likes to gnaw on carrots and say, "What's up, Doc?" He has a very vivid personality. And yet he has never actually existed. There's never been a walking, talking rabbit that eats carrots and messes with a hunter and a Tasmanian devil and Yosemite Sam and all that. He doesn't exist. He is a non-living thing that has been given animation, meaning movement, meaning a spirit. He's been given almost a soul by his animators and his voice people and his writers, okay? So basic religions have an animistic view of nature, meaning they animate, not like it runs around like Bugs Bunny, but they give a spirit. They perceive a spirit, a soul, a personality in the world around them. There might be a buffalo spirit that inhabits the buffaloes, a tree spirit that inhabits the forest, the spirits of the dead in the burial grounds that you don't mess with, right? And so on and so forth. The waterfall has a spirit. Native Americans believe the Missouri River was called the great grandfather's spirit because it was old and ancient, but it was cantankerous and grouchy and hard to navigate, right? I love that. So an animistic view of nature, I'm spending a lot of time on that here because this is an important concept we'll see again more than once. Yeah, nature's alive with spirits. Okay. When something is taboo, I'm going to re-up the audio here just to make sure it's not clicking or anything. Okay. All right. Taboo is a part of basic religion. What I'm going to do is go through several characteristics of basic religions. And then when we look at Native America and we look at Native Africa, we will see those characteristics specifically again. This is generic. Okay. So basic religions of all type, African, Native American, whatever, they have taboos like don't desecrate the burial ground, something like that. It's going to get the hiccups now. Totem. Now you think of a totem pole. Totem pole is where you put your totems. So your totem might be an eagle and a bear. So you put an eagle and a bear head up on your pole to advertise your totems. And that tells everybody this is the eagle bear tribe. And, they're pretty tough, right? They hang out with bears and eagles. So the chief probably has eagle feathers in his headdress. Maybe he has bear claws in his ceremonial outfit, that kind of thing. And later on, we turn that into sports teams. I love it, right? The tigers, the bears, all that comes out of the totem relationship of humans. Sacrifice is when you give something to the gods, like you burn it. And burning a sacrifice makes perfect sense because what happens? The smoke goes right up to the gods. Myth is a story or a poetic way of telling a great truth. So it's not necessarily a true story. It's a great truth being illustrated. It's kind of like one of those movies that's based on actual events or based on an event, It means it's not literally the same word for word, but here's my example I always say, like Paul Bunyan and Babe the Blue Ox. That's a myth because while there was never 100-foot tall blue ox and a lumberjack that size, there were plenty of lumberjacks and oxen out in the West who did what they did, so we make a story out of it, okay? That pops up a lot in religion. Rituals, obviously things you go through and reenact. Rites of passage are rituals specifically for key transitional points, like at birth, puberty, marriage, and death. We have these in our secular world too, like a Sweet 16 birthday party, or when you turn 21 and go out and drink alcohol legally for the first time or something like that, or when you get married, right? These are rites of passage. Ancestor veneration means to highly honor. It doesn't mean to worship. Ancestor worship is much more rare. Ancestor veneration means you highly honor your ancestors. And maybe you, out of respect or out of fear, you might think that they are now ghosts and can come back and haunt you. That's big in Africa. We'll get to that. Magic is attempting to control nature. I mean, that's a very basic definition. We think of magic today as what we would call illusion, where you try to fool somebody with visual illusions, like Doug Henning or David Copperfield or whoever, right? Or Penn and Teller doing magic tricks. But magic originally was trying to control nature, like make it rain, make it stop raining, make the herds of buffalo come over this way so we can easily hunt them, make the enemy army all fall down of disease suddenly. These are trying to control nature, and nature doesn't like being controlled, but it gave humans a sense of control, what we call efficacy. Human beings are very big on efficacy. We don't want to feel like we're just passengers in the car banging along the highway and going off the cliff. We like to feel like we have a steering wheel, right? Science gives us a fairly decent steering wheel. But for the vast majority of human history, we didn't have that scientific steering wheel. So we had magic, which makes us at least think we have a steering wheel. And thinking it is a lot better than knowing you don't have it at all. Okay. Divination is just a fancy way of saying predicting the future. When you're and there's two kinds of predicting the future. There's one kind of predicting the future where it just kind of comes to you out of nowhere, like, this plane's going to crash. I must not get on it. The other kind of divination is where you're trying. You go to a fortune teller, you read your palm, or you do there's the Chinese, the I Ching we'll get to later, or Nostradamus famously was divining the future. So divining is when you're trying. There's another kind we'll get to in a minute where it just kind of happens to you. Like you have a mutant power, you see the future, whether you like it or not. It's kind of premonitions. All right. So that's my introduction and basic religions. I believe now I'm supposed to go through, let me just double check, make sure. I think we got to go through Native American. Yeah. So let's look at Native American. This is not super long either, because this is basically just what I just said, but specifically for Native America. Okay. So many tribes, right? And the reason I show you that is to show you why there's just so many different ways of having Native American religions, because there were so many different tribes. And like I said, even within the tribes, there were many different ways of doing it. So there's just it's such a diverse, at least it was, such a diverse religion. In my in-class sessions, I would give you the story about the Choctaw chief in Mississippi. I don't have really time to do it now. Maybe at some point I'll tell you. We've got 18 minutes to get through Native America. Not a problem. Again, if you want to go back and rewind and pause and everything, do that. I'm going to zip along. Native America, the reason we know it's old is because we found, we found ruins and burial things in like Cahokia and places like that going back 20,000 years with religious artifacts mixed in. It's not an organized religion, but it's an old religion. But they didn't have literacy before Columbus, and so we don't have anything written down up until the coming of the white man, quote unquote, and then the black man, and then the Asian man, and all that, right? So only in the last 400 years we have things written down. That means that most of what we know is based on digging up graves, digging up old villages and stuff like that, archaeology. One of the most important things in Native American religion is the idea of the spirit world, right? They don't have this whole heaven and hell and us in the middle. Native Americans perceive a spirit world like it's a parallel dimension right next to us and around us all the time. And spirits move in and out of the spirit world in our world. And so in one sense, it's kind of polytheistic, having a lot of gods, but they're not really gods, they're really more spirits. But in another way, and they can be animals or plants, they can appear in visions. We'll talk about that as we go along. There are guardian spirits. Maybe it's your ancestors protecting you. Maybe it's like you're part of that eagle bear tribe, and so the spirit of the eagle looks out for you and protects you or something, or the bear. There's also, and re-up my audio. I feel like it's, make sure. The spirits of the dead, which can be good or they can be bad. And then there's Mother Earth, right? Many Native America is really big on the idea of this Mother Earth, Mother Nature, the great feminine spirit that brings forth life, and you have to take care of it, right? Native Americans are religiously are very concern with protecting the environment, protecting the earth. It's why the cowboys, the first settlers went out there. Some of them called Native Americans dirt worshipers because they thought they were like worshiping the dirt, worshiping the earth. No, they were just being extremely protective of it. And that makes sense. It's why we today look back at Native Americans and go, man, they had a lot more right than people understood 200, 300 years ago. But in another way, the spirit world can be monotheistic because many Native American tribes have what's called a high god. So in other words, most of the gods at that point are at the level of angels or saints. And then you have the high god, which is almost a monotheistic god up above them. But the difference is that the high god didn't really worry about the concerns of the earth. The high god kind of said, earth, do your thing. I always describe this as the contractor god. He or she or it comes in and creates the world, creates the animals, creates humans, and then goes off to do other things. You wouldn't pray to this high god to help you with your problems today because the high god has other things that he or she or it are worried about. He's got other things to do than worry about your problems. I would say this is the contractor god. It's the same way if the contractor comes in and builds your house and you buy it. And then 10 years later, if you need a new dishwasher or you need the door fixed, you don't go find the contractor that built your house. You go to Lowe's, right? You pray to the Lowe's god to send the handyman spirit to your house. See, so the handyman would be the spirit world, and the contractor that's going on to other things, building other houses, is the high god. So you appeal to them only rarely, and they're generally kind of abstract and out there. They have a reverent attitude. I already talked about that. Yeah, living in balance. They only kill what was. We know that about Native Americans. I'll zip on along through that. Here, but you've got your PowerPoint, so you know. Rituals. Native Americans big on rituals. The purpose of Native American rituals was not to control. This is an important thing. Native Americans were never really trying to control nature. Native Americans saw nature as in balance with them, and they tried to work with it. They tried to have a partnership with nature and the spirit world. They didn't see it like as above them that they have to worship and pray and beg for something from. They saw it as even with them. I'll do this for you. You do this for me, right? Like, I'll protect the buffalo and not kill all of them. I'll only kill the ones that I need. And in exchange, spirit world, you send more buffalo when we need them. So they always had a very transactional relationship with the gods in the spirit world. Good relations, right? I mean, nobody would describe Islam or Christianity as you want to have good relations with God or Jesus, right? It's you obey, you worship, you do what they require and hope that they will in return be nice back to you. Whereas the Native Americans, they see the spirit world as in a parallel with them, and they're just trying to have a good kind of almost contractual, transactional relationship. I give like if you go to Casey's to buy a 2-liter Coke, I give you a couple of bucks, you give me a 2-liter Coke. We have Casey's is here, I'm here, and we exchange things. We have a transactional relationship. I don't go outside of Casey's and bow down and pray, oh, great Casey God, bless me with your blessings, and all of a sudden a 2-liter Coke floats down from heaven. No, it's a transactional relationship. Sacrifice is kind of how you pay for it, right? A gift to the spirits to thank them, or as part of this exchange. It could be animals, grain, beer. I love that every society in human history pretty much invented beer. This is not beer. This is a water thing. But humans just, for some reason, we keep inventing beer. It's really weird. The Aztecs were really the only Native Americans that did human sacrifice. It wasn't all that, the Maya a little bit, whatever, but the Aztecs kind of made it an industry. Taboos. For Native Americans, taboo was forbidding something that would offend, right? Remember, taboos in general are something that's forbidden. But for Native Americans, there's the why. Why is it taboo to them? Well, because it would offend the spirits of nature and the ancestors. Taboos would be something that you would do, and your mother or father, or I guess your great-grandparents up in the clouds would go, shame on you for doing that, right? So that's taboo. You don't do that. There's all sorts of, Native American ceremonies, often involving songs and dancing, maybe around a fire and all that kind of stuff involving food. The purpose of these things was not necessarily worship. It was partnership. Again, there's that horizontal. I always describe Jewish, Christian, Muslim religions are vertical. We're on the bottom. God and all the angels and everything are on the top, and there's a vertical relationship. In these kind of religions, it's a horizontal relationship. You're partnering with the spirit world. And you do these things to prepare the tribe for like a hunt or a battle or harvest. The vision quest is a particular type of ceremony or ritual where you go out in the world to seek a vision. You feel like the gods or the spirit world will give you a vision and give you some secret knowledge. And so you might go out and wander around. And basically, if you wander around in the woods as a Native American for like a week and drink, creek water and eat berries that may or may not be semi-poisonous and otherwise are dehydrated, after a while, you will have a vision. You will see the gods, probably. You'll see something, colors. I don't know what you'll see. You do this at important times like battles or hunts to get ready. Young people at puberty, kind of like how the Spartans would send the children out to kill an animal or whatever with a spear. Religious leadership in Native America, there's not really much, or never really was. It was much more everybody does it. Maybe there's a medicine man or woman who's kind of the shaman, the role of healer. Often an orphan in the community and the tribe would be raised by the previous medicine man or woman to be the next one. And they would learn things like what tree barks will relieve pain, because that's aspirin, for example. They learn like handy things like that. But they also are concerned with spirits, and they also could bring sickness. I always say, if you don't pay your medical bill to the medicine man, and now you got the plague, I'll take it away when you pay your bill, Smoking drugs. Certainly things that are hallucinogenic will help you contact the spirit world, whether you think so, or it make you think you did. Tobacco for Native Americans, because they had the wild tobacco. But Native Americans had the wacky tobacco, Nicotiana rustica, which means like wild tobacco, much stronger than anything we have today. It would knock you on your butt. And I always say this is why the Native American tribes would smoke the peace pipe after a battle, right? You're wanting to kill your enemies. Then when the battle's over, you smoke the peace pipe and nobody's getting off the ground to kill anybody. They're all just lying there going, somebody make macaroni and cheese. That's all they can do at that point, right? So that's the wacky tobacco. And then peyote in the Southwest contains mescaline, which is like a powerful drug. Death customs, you handle them with care. I like that they have a living soul, which dies with the body, but you have a free soul, kind of like Doctor Strange, right? You have this free soul that goes out and wanders around during dreams. When you die, your free soul goes to the land of the dead. Okay. So you handle the dead with care, and you have two souls. Yeah, and if you're forgotten by people today, your free soul kind of goes away. All right, and then lastly, Native American religions today. Today, most Native Americans are Christian because you've had centuries of missionaries, but some were allowed to include their native customs. So you'll go to some Native American communities, maybe in the West, and they are just like, a Baptist church here or somewhere. But you might go to another tribe or another area, and Native Americans would incorporate the deer into their Christian ceremony, something like that. In fact, I think they identify Jesus. Some identify Jesus with the lamb, some with the fish. Native Americans tend to use the deer because this was an animal that is peaceful, doesn't really hurt anybody, and sacrifices for the good of the people. Let's be hunted for food or whatever. Although I always say, if you're flying down Highway 3 toward Carbondale, and the right time of the year, if you're going about 80 miles an hour, the Native American Jesus Christ may jump out in front of you and wreck your car. So be very careful. And you will scream Jesus. It's terrible. I'm sorry. I try to be funny, and I sometimes offend even myself. I'm offended at me. The appeal of Mormonism. We're going to talk about Mormons later, but Mormonism believes that Native Americans are one of those lost tribes of Israel which we'll get to a bit later, and that they believe that Jesus preached in North America after the crucifixion. In other words, after Jesus came back from the dead after the crucifixion, he traveled to Native America, to North America, and preached to Native Americans who are Jews. We'll talk about that later. All right. So with 5 minutes to spare, we got through. I do realize I went through that very rapidly. I do. It's because, again, you can pause things. You can ask me questions in email or on Zoom. It is recorded, so I don't have to go really ponderously slow while everybody writes everything down. At this rate, I think we'll be okay. I don't think we'll have to add any more sessions. Again, it's always optional if I add sessions. We can just to go over things in more detail. If you have any questions about anything, let me know. Send me an email as a primary way to do it. I'll be here until 4 today doing that. But there's nothing right now. This is just our first week. So make sure you get your textbook and be reading up on the first 2 or 3 chapters there. It's a different book than the one I used originally. It wasn't my choice. The college kind of changed books a couple of years ago. The chapters are still in pretty much the same order, and they match up by topic, but it's just slightly different. It's fine. It's good. It's just slightly different. So if you have any questions, let me know. If anything is not clear. Tucker says, yeah, you don't want our Lord and Savior jumping out and wrecking your car. So, thank you. I appreciate that, Biochemist. I'll take any laughter I can get. Okay, gang. So we'll wrap up here. Send me and by the way, there's a delay. So if I turn it off and then you ask me a question over there, I won't probably see it. So after now, so send me an email and I'll see you again next Monday where we'll go over Native African religion. And I think we'll begin Hinduism. That's a big one. So, all right. I'll see you guys later and email me your